Hey everyone, I'm doing my John Maxwell. So I'm still not completely better, but I'm better than I was. I'll have to continue my exercising and continue to just take things gently for a while. I'm not going to be able to do my walk today. Some days I just don't feel like doing it, and today is one of those days where I just need to relax anyway. So I'm finishing off this chapter on problem solving, and the scripture for today was Mark 5:21 to 34. It's about the woman with the hemorrhage that Jesus heals, and it's an unintentional healing. It's not a healing where she goes up to him and asks for his healing. It's a healing where she reaches out and she touches him, and his power heals her through that touch. But he doesn't know who's touched him, and he asks, "Who touched me?" Because he felt that power going out from him. And the disciples are like, "How can you ask who touched you? Like the crowd is all around you and people are touching you." And Jesus insists, saying, "Who touched me?" Somebody touched me, and that he felt the power going out from him. So then the woman comes forward, and she's frightened, but she comes forward, and Jesus turns to her and says, "Daughter, your faith has healed you. Go in peace. Be freed from your suffering." So I'm paraphrasing here. I'm not reading the scripture, obviously. So don't quote me on it. A lot of people do that. They're like, "You said this," but a lot of what I'm saying is just trying to give the story, trying to give the example, trying to show you what Jesus was doing. So when it comes to problem solving, the first question here, and I'm continuing this book, which is the 21 Qualities of Leaders in the Bible. And I'm doing this to build up my ministry work, to build up my speaking engagements, because my whole purpose here is to go from free to fee. I'm not a paid minister in the church. I don't get a salary from the church. And in fact, my donations help to build up the church and the community. So I also have to work for myself. I have to get an income coming in. And that's why I'm doing this, to provide examples of what I can do, what I can provide, how I can facilitate small groups or work with leaders, business leaders in communities. And it doesn't have to be in Canada. It could be in Zimbabwe. It could be in the schools in Zimbabwe. Or it could be with the government leaders, with anybody looking to develop their critical thinking skills and taking that into their daily lives, their families. I can do it with anybody. It doesn't have to be in Canada. In fact, yesterday I was talking to my aunt, and I told her I applied for a lot of jobs in Zimbabwe, to UNICEF, to World Vision. I applied for jobs in Africa with Save the Children. And unfortunately, I wasn't selected. But, it's not like things are getting any better in Canada. So if I can use my skills and go back to Africa and have a good lifestyle there, I'm prepared to go. Because I didn't expect to come to Canada and have so much pushback. Women don't get good paid jobs here. We don't get the top positions. We don't get promoted. Especially if you're a visible minority, it's very hard. For a long time, we didn't have anybody leading the One Campaign initiatives in Canada here. We didn't have a team in place. And so most of us were just kind of sitting around saying, like, they've got people here, they've got people like me who are willing to lead it, and they just don't seem to be interested, including Bono. I mean, he never made any time for us. He never came to see us. He never spent time with us. So we were like, what's going on? Like, everything's always about America. He's always going to America. So what about the rest of us? And a lot of people got frustrated and they just left. And the same thing with the MPs. It was Justin Trudeau's initiative. Him and his ministers launched it. And then when we went out to meet with people, they were like, yeah, well, we'll see what we can do. Or they pushed back, like Marco Mendocino pushed back a lot of times. And he told me, I can't take this. Like, I need figures, I need facts. You need to give these things to me in this format. So I had to do it. And I didn't expect it to be like that. I thought they were going to nurture me. They were going to take me on side with them and help me. And I used to be frightened when I used to go to meet with Marco. I used to shake. And his team used to tell me, it will be okay, just wait until he's ready and then he'll call you into the office. But I used to be very frightened. So, it's not like we did it just to get money out of it. We got nothing out of it. And especially with me, with my family, nobody's ever helped us. The church has never given us money, knowing that my dad passed away when we were young. My mother had to struggle on her own because the church never helped. Even in Zimbabwe, they never helped. So for me, it's important that the financial piece falls into place. I'm not doing this to make Bono rich, and I'm not doing it just to benefit the people that I'm helping in Africa. I'm also doing it for me and bringing together my volunteering, these speaking engagements that I had, like with the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. I'm doing all of it so that I can also come up financially, not to make Bono and his family rich and so they can have cars and properties and travel the world while I'm sitting at home. That's not the end goal. So I just want to be clear on that, on what my aims are, what I'm looking for. And I did ask Bono many times to come, and he didn't. And I helped him a lot. I helped him to think about having a business side to it, selling his products to make money, helping people come up as artisans, not just giving them the money, but helping them to set up trades, to become entrepreneurs. If you go and check the U2 Facebook wall, you'll see all the things I did for him. Even when people used to post on social media, on Instagram, saying, where's Bono? Is he okay? Something's wrong. I used to go and look for him. He never came. He never made time for me. He never ever came and stayed, like they could have come. They come here, they see all the big shots, all the ministers and everybody, and then they go. And people are frustrated because he doesn't even take a photo with us. He'll go to the Americans and he'll take photos with them, shake their hands, get to know their families. And what about us? I mean, are we just there to make you rich and just for you to use our minds and our resources? It's not fair to us. So many of us are happy that they got a team in place, but we're like, you know what? Many of us have been with you a long time, and if you're not interested in helping us, our families, you're not interested in getting us into jobs that pay us well, then we're going to move on, because some people left immediately after the launch when they saw how Bono was, that he didn't even come and take photos with us. He didn't talk to us. He gave his speech and then he hugged Justin Trudeau and then he went. And especially the black guys were like, is that how he is? We're not staying. And they're like, you better be careful. You keep in touch with us. I said, yeah, I'll keep in touch with you, but I don't think there's anything to worry about. They're like, He doesn't understand the African leadership, and he doesn't understand how to treat you women. I said to them, you know what, I always wanted to do this, and I want to see if I can get a job out of it, because I want the opportunity to work with him directly. I liked what he had to say. And I think enough time has passed that I can make my decision. And it's not to say that I'm happy about it. I'm sad. Just like many people are sad that Justin Trudeau ruined Canada, because people loved him. People loved him, but they're making bad decisions. So, I'm not willing to be used anymore and not get anything in return, not get any time with Bono, with Justin Trudeau, with the leadership, and yet they can take our ideas and use them, and then they don't care what happens to us. So anyway, I mean, all those guys that were there with me at the launch, I hate to say they were right, but they were right. So that's that. I'll be leaving Bono completely in August. We're not together anymore. Our spirits are not together anymore. So I'm doing what I have to do to transition. And I'm not 20 years old. I don't need to be sent tests to see how I can research or how I can do things. I don't have to be told that I need to be invited to events. Obviously, but they told us at the launch that you guys need to step forward and you need to ask us. Like if you want to be at a U2 concert, or if you want time with Bono, or if you want time with Justin Trudeau, you need to step up and tell us that that's what you want. And I've been doing that and I haven't been getting what they're saying they would give us. So obviously something's changed, and that's fine. I mean, if he wants to just invest in Ndidi and make time for her and take photographs with her, and he's not bothered with the rest of us, it does hurt, but there's nothing you can do. You can take the horse to the water, but you can't make it drink. And I've got other people that care about me. I've got Jesuits that care about me. I've got other people in my life who want time with me. So I'm going to focus on them, and I keep in touch with a few of the Jesuits from South Africa. If they come to Canada, they tell me, I meet up with them. And even Graham Fusion told me, he said, it's not only you, Belinda. He said, it's sad to see, I feel for you. But he said, there are people who have told me, you are not the only one going through it. There are women who have come to this country who are highly educated, highly qualified, and they keep putting them into minimum wage. They can't get good paying jobs. They give them all the responsibility and they pay them the least amount. They don't care if their health suffers. So then what was the point of us fighting for our freedom, for human rights, all the work we did in South Africa, in Zimbabwe, to come here and to be treated worse than we were not treated like this in Zimbabwe and South Africa. We were treated with the utmost respect and invited to black tie events. Cars were sent to pick us up. We would coordinate so that people could carpool to events. We were not treated like this. So psychologically, it's not a good place for me to be in. So if I can go back to Zimbabwe and have that lifestyle that I want, where I'm going to be treated with respect, and I'm not going to keep going back into minimum wage, then I want to do it. Even in America, the executive assistants get paid $100,000. My cousin told me. She wanted me to come, my cousin Carol. She said, don't stay in Canada. She said, come to America. I said to her, I've been applying since I came to Canada. I've been applying for executive assistant jobs in America, but nobody wants to help me. Nobody wants to open the doors for me. And that's why when I joined this one campaign, I thought, oh, you know what? If I keep in touch with Bono, he's got contacts, he's got the people that he knows, and through that one campaign, I'll get a break. It didn't happen. I tried through the church, I tried through many non-profits, so it hasn't worked out for me. I don't like walking everywhere. My feet are ruined. My feet are in bad shape because of the amount of walking that I had to do. My hearing is suffering. I mean, I don't want my life to end like this, in poverty and in bankruptcy. And if I can't go to America and I can go home and have a good lifestyle, I'm prepared to do it. Because there's no point staying somewhere where you're not wanted. If people wanted me here, they would have opened the doors for me. Bono would have opened the doors for me. Bono would have made time for me. And I'm putting it on him because for a long time, his band didn't support what he was doing. He didn't have the support of his family for this one campaign for a long time. And then over time, things changed. So that's where I'm at. And that's why it's important for whoever's watching my videos to tell people. If you know people in America, in England, in other parts of the world, even in Canada, that, hey, I know this person. She's an accomplished executive assistant. She's highly recommended. She took work in a call center because she couldn't get anything else. And she's got responsibilities towards her mother. And she's working hard. She has a desire to come up financially. Please do that for me. Because I don't like what is happening to my life, and my family doesn't like it. Since I graduated from Regis College, I have not had a break. I have not had any good paying jobs. They always call me for minimum wage jobs. And if they do call me for jobs that are paying what I'm worth, which is $50 an hour, they only call me for 3 to 6 months and then they let me go. And they all say, no, we're going to call you back. Don't worry. When an opportunity comes, we're going to call you back. And they don't. BMO did that to me. TD did that to me. RBC did that to me. CIBC did that to me. So, and then people think it's me, but it's not me. It's them. It is them. So you can't keep using people and abusing people and expect people to say, yeah, I'm going to stay here because Canada's a good country. It's not that good anymore. It was good when I came. We didn't have long wait times with the doctors. You could get family doctors. You didn't have to struggle and scrape to get by. You didn't have to go into debt to the extent I did to live, just to live. I mean, it's ridiculous what's happening. Now all the subprime lenders are coming up again. So what's going to happen? We're going to land up with another big recession if everybody has to use their loans because they don't want to bring in UBI. The people that need help in Canada, we're not getting the help, and we're not getting Bono's support. We're not getting it. So it's important, even with the Jesuits. The Jesuits are not promoting women the way they used to in Canada. The college has changed. Regis College has changed. We don't get invitations to speak, to come to events to help them. We don't get put into positions of privilege. We work for it. Nothing is handed to us. And Bono could do more for the volunteers if he wanted to. He's had big events in America where he's had his volunteers with him. He's had events where he's spoken to them. He sat with them, him and Bill Gates. He doesn't make the time for me. And he doesn't make the time for us in Canada. So it's very disheartening. It's very disheartening. And, you know, the things that they're putting into place now, we have to tell them. We have to tell the people that he selected why we don't agree with it, or why we should be invited, or why this has to happen. So, you know, I mean, if he wants 20-year-olds in the organization, that's fine. But one never used to be like that. It used to be for all ages, all races. And his faith was what was the foundation, his Christian faith. I don't see that anymore. So anyway, that's my take on it. And it's a hard thing to see when somebody changes like that. It's hard. But at the same time, my faith hasn't changed, and my faith has always been strong, and I'm not willing to compromise. So I've always been like that, and the people that I went to university with know me. And even Yoya was like, when he came into Trinity, he's like, I hate these blacks. I'm like, Yoya, you have to give them a chance. He changed. And they'll tell you it was because of me. And my friends in South Africa know me. I will not compromise when it comes to my faith. So if you want Muslims and Hindus and everybody else leading your organization, Bono, that's perfectly fine. But my life is suffering because of it. I can't get Good Fridays off. I can't get Christmas off. I can't get good paying jobs. And you're doing bugger all to help me. So that photo with Ndidi changed everything. Not just for me, but for many people. And saying I took responsibility is not enough. It's not going to change anything. So to go back to these questions today, the questions, I have to take my glasses off because I can't see otherwise. The first question is, what do you imagine the woman's mindset was after 12 years of suffering, spending all of her money on doctors and getting worse instead of better? So she was probably losing hope. She was probably feeling she would never get well or recover, and wondering, what can I do? Who do I go to get well? The doctors couldn't help her, and she had spent all of her money. The second question, do you think her decision to try to touch Jesus's clothes was something she had traveled to that location specifically to do? Or was it an opportunity that presented itself unexpectedly in the moment and she seized it? Explain your answer. So I think she happened to be there. The scripture doesn't say, scripture is usually very clear and very good. It will say they planned a journey or they decided to do this. The woman decided to go to this place because she knew Jesus would be there. It doesn't say that. The scripture just doesn't say that she sought Jesus out or planned a trip. It says a woman was there who had been subject to bleeding for 12 years. So she happened to be there where he was. The third question is, why do you think the woman was initially reluctant to reveal herself as the person who touched Jesus and received the power that had gone out of him? So normally with people, with anybody that has any manners, whether it's a rabbi or any person, before you touch somebody, you will ask, can I touch you, or can I reach out, can I give you a hug? Unless you are close to that person and that person is your friend or your family member, you will always ask, and especially in cultural context, it would not be considered light. So that's why for somebody like me, when people just come up to me and they breathe on me, they stand behind me and they're breathing on me, or they're giving me a hug, or they're leaning over me, I'm like, oh, these people have no manners. Because for me, I don't like that kind of thing. It's good to ask a person, even if you're dealing with people with disabilities, it's good to ask them, can I take your hand? Can I help you with that? Is there something I can do? You don't just go and touch the person. Some of us don't like being touched. And in cultural context, it's very impolite to just go and touch somebody. Then the fourth question, what can be learned about problem solving from the actions of the woman? What can you learn about God from Jesus's response to her? So this woman acted in faith. She must have been frightened because she knew Jesus was a rabbi. She knew he was a teacher, a spiritual leader in the community. But she acted in faith and she trusted that the outcome would be good. And God's response is Jesus's response. His response is that she is his daughter and that her faith has healed her to go in peace and to be free from her suffering. So Jesus didn't reprimand her, and he didn't say, I'm taking back that healing. You can carry on suffering because you didn't ask me. Jesus just welcomed her and showed his love for her. So that's the final case study in here. And then there's some insight and reflection questions. Based on the 3 passages that we covered, what are the roles of awareness, courage, motivation, experience, creativity, strategic thinking, follow-through, and perseverance when it comes to problem solving? What other important factors would you include? So when it comes to solving problems, there's many things to consider, starting with our own lives. Faith is the foundation in a cultural context. We have to be aware of our own motives, of taking care of our own lives first and then others. we have to gain experience in dealing with different areas. So in those 3 passages, we looked at hospitality when we looked at the first one. And for the woman who Elisha was visiting, she probably thought, instead of every time he comes, I have to get a bed ready, I have to get a room ready, put a lamp out, put it back, take it away. It will probably make it easier for me if I have it set up so that when he does come, I can just have everything ready. And then it saves time and it makes the person feel welcome. And that also covers creativity. And then seeing the future of our lives and following through on our commitments. So we don't give up as Christians. We persevere in our faith. And we know that it's not easy sometimes. We encounter death, we encounter cultural differences, we encounter problems along the way. But we look at different ways that we can resolve those problems so that our own lives get better and then the people around us. Because if our own lives are not good and we are continuing to suffer, we are continuing to go downhill financially, we are continuing to have situations where our lives are just not improving, then we can't help others. And we have to use our creative and strategic skills to leverage them to solve problems. If people don't want to listen to us, like how some of the liberals didn't want to listen to me when I went with these initiatives for the One campaign, there's nothing we can do. But then you have situations happening like what's happening now. USAID is pulling out all their funding and governments are looking inward. They want to take care of people at home first. So if they didn't want to listen to us then, there's nothing we can do. Now we have to deal with what is happening now and we have to try to move forward with that. So it doesn't help to say, well, we're sorry and we took responsibility and, we should have listened to you. That doesn't help because the damage is done and the hurt is done and millions of lives are suffering now, not just in Canada, but across the globe because they wanted to bring in their policies of selling hard drugs like candy. They wanted to bring in their policies where you had to fight tooth and nail to get any kind of funding for Africa, for India. And then now we had devastating floods. They're saying that hundreds of farms have been wiped out in France. So that's going to affect food supply. And in all of this, you can say, well, what's the purpose in all of that? Where's God in all of that? Well, what values did they put first? They didn't put Christian values first. They didn't uphold us Catholic women. They didn't give us our days off. They told us the business comes first. And if you deal with your faith, deal with what you have to do. So these are the consequences because God always comes through for his people. And then we can just look at what areas we can work on in ourselves, in our lives, and in taking action with setting our goals. Even for me, like to do these videos daily, it takes discipline. I don't just say, oh, well, I'm just going to leave it. I could, but I always do them. I always put them out. I take action because once you get those followers, once you get businesses paying attention, then out of that, I will get that paid opportunity to speak. Just like I did for the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. It was funded through the Conservative government, and they gave me a stipend. They covered my costs to go to the schools. They sent taxis for me to pick me up and drop me off. They provided the equipment, and I was taken care of. So that's what I want. I don't want to just be left to fend for myself and told that, oh, well, this business need comes first, and if your hearing is suffering or you've got anxiety, that's too bad. That's not what I want, and that's not how I treat people. So we can all take action. We can start taking immediate action, and we can look to make things better for ourselves and the communities we're in. If you notice, there's some questions here. How many solutions did Elisha attempt before succeeding in raising the Shunammite woman's son from the dead? Why do you think it required that many? So he tried 3 times. First, they prayed together. Then he laid over him. He got up and he walked up and down. He laid over him again. And then the prayers were answered. So he had to persevere. Sometimes we feel like our prayers are not being heard, and we feel like God is not answering our prayers. But we still have to persevere in taking action and in praying. The second question is, in your opinion, who was the better problem solver, the Shunammite woman or Elisha? So the Shunammite woman, the Shunammite woman was the better problem solver because she went to Elisha. She knew that as a man of God, he'd help her. And then with him, she took action to save her son. The third question is, who showed the greater leadership in the Esther passage, Xerxes, Esther, or Mordecai? So it was Esther because first she saved her own life and then she saved her family and her people. But she didn't make it about her. She said to him, if it pleases you, can we do this? So she represented his best interests and she represented the interest of her people. She wasn't somebody that was like a bulldog in a china shop. And it's important to remember that. It's the same thing as when we volunteer in the church or when we volunteer campaign. We help them with getting work through for us, because I did get work. Granted, it wasn't good paid work, but I did get work at Regis College. I got some work through the churches. I got work through other volunteer organizations that I helped out with. But unpaid work doesn't pay the bills. And when we put the interests of the person we're supporting first, like for me, I have to put the interests of my parish first, and I can use my skills there. Or with one, I have to put Bono's interests first. And that's what I did when I came up with strategies for helping others get work through his nonprofits and business. I sought him out when people said he was sick, and I demonstrated good faith. And that's important to remember, because people can go through character assassination like I did, but we have to put our faith in God, because that's the only way that I pulled through it. Because nobody stood by me except for my family. And I had to put my faith in God and pull through it on my own, using my essential oils, using what was available to me. I had to push at Teleperformance to say, come on, you're giving us these headsets. We're sitting with them the whole day. People are talking into us and they're shouting and screaming and yelling. So through that, they got headphones where you could adjust the volume. But it's always, they don't put our interests first. And if they did, things could be very different. They could have employees working with them who don't have to get anxiety, who don't have to lose their health, who don't have to make a choice between going to church and working. And they can have people who value money above all things working on their religious holidays. That's the solution that they could have. And then the fourth question here is, why do you think Jesus knew power had gone out from him, yet he had to ask who touched him? So he was aware that somebody touched him. He probably felt that energy leaving his body. But there was a crowd around him, so he had to ask who touched him. Because if you are a healer, and you're trained to do this when you do a spiritual direction, the sisters trained us that if you take your hands and you rub them, you can feel the energy between your hands. Now you have to become very aware of your body, and you have to become aware of the energy in your body, but you can feel it. And even when you do aromatherapy massage with your essential oils, you can feel it. So you do know when your energy is leaving you. You can also do prayers to protect your energy so that it doesn't leave you. But Jesus knew when that energy left him. That's why he had to ask who touched him. And the fifth question is, 2 of these passages included supernatural solutions to problems where God intervened. When you face a problem, at what point, if any, do you appeal to God for help? What do you expect from him? So for me, I always go to God first, and I trust for his guidance. I trust him to send me the right people. I pray for good judgment. I ask him to help me to discern and make good decisions. I pray for help to think, to be able to find solutions to my problems. And I also pray for me to understand God's will and to persevere in my faith, to strengthen my faith. I know God hears our prayers, and I know that he answers them in his own way and his own time. It's like with my prayer to go back to Zimbabwe. It's not a prayer that I made like from now. It's a prayer I've made for many, many years. But I don't see opportunities opening up there. But I don't see opportunities opening up here. So I really don't understand why God is allowing this to happen. Because it's a waste of my life. And I don't believe that God wants me to land up destitute, poor, living in the street, or living in a tent. I don't believe that that's God's will for me. So I persevere in my faith. The 6th question is, when solving problems as a leader, what do you consider to be your part, your team's part, and God's part? So for me as a leader, I come alongside others. I try to lead by example. And I know that my teams come to me because I have more experience or I have the education. So I try not to be intimidating for them. And for the most part, I know that people have told me that I'm not. So that helps me to persevere. The last question is, where do you need to improve as a problem solver? What action do you believe God is asking you to take to make this improvement? How, when, and how will you do it? So for me, the biggest piece right now is the financial piece. And I am taking action to solve that. I am applying for jobs that are better paid. I'm applying for jobs in England, in America, in different parts of the world. And I am praying that I get that break. And I am praying that that opportunity comes for me. And if it's not going to be in the church in Canada, and it's not going to be with the One Campaign, that's fine. There's a lot of organizations out there. And when I say the church, I'm including non-Catholic churches, because I didn't only apply to Catholic churches. I applied to the Anglican Church. I applied to the United Church. I applied to a lot of different churches in Canada. But I'm going to persevere. I'm going to keep taking action, keep making these videos and posting them to Facebook and then to YouTube and other social media. And I know that I am a credible person. I know that if I wasn't, I wouldn't have been accepted onto the John Maxwell team. I wouldn't have been endorsed by them or by Regis College, by my professors, by the people I've helped along the way, the people who I've mentored. So I know I'm credible. I have good skills to offer. I've even been on Newsnight in Canada about my political views. And I know that I have solutions to offer others. But I also want that financial piece to fall into place for me and for my family, for my mom. Because my mom made a lot of sacrifices for us when we were small and growing up. And She set a good example for us. When we had money, she cooked every day. She made sure our employees were paid fairly. She got us involved in doing the household bills. We were with her when she went shopping. We saw how she handled the money. And my dad. So for me, that's important, because if my dad could own an Alfa Romeo and build our big house, and there was apartheid and all of that, I also want to be able to do those things. Because it's not enough that Canada says that we're a country of equality and we value everyone and everyone has human rights, when the reality on the ground is different. So I push back when I have to, and I do it on my own if I have to. I do it alone. Sometimes I join with the church, the Catholic Church. Sometimes I join with non-profit organizations. But I fight for my life, because my life is also a gift and it's also worth it. So I hope that helps you. And again, if you do hear of opportunities for me as a speaker and to lead groups and to get a good paying job as an executive assistant, please put my name forward. I didn't leave Teleperformance or any of my jobs of my own accord. They ended the contracts because they didn't have work for me. And it's important that people know that. So thank you to those of you who watched. I'm going to be switching the camera off, and then I'll download the video and I'll put it onto YouTube. And I'll do my exercise, my dance exercise later, if I'm up to it and I'm well.